Good morning. I had some technical difficulties, and so it took me a few minutes to get here, and I apologize for being late. I kind of had everything go wrong, including at some point my computer may start printing the love letter I wanted to read. But anyway, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for coming. It's an amazing time right now because we're rerunning the How to Be at Peace with Your Beloved After They've Passed. And this is such an important topic, and I know that many of you have been writing about it and writing into the group about your recent losses. So today is as important alive as we'll ever do. And we also have next week to talk about it also. And I'm wondering, is anyone here, Yasmin?
Yeah, there are people slowly jumping on. Hi, everybody. Good morning. And I think you should, repeat yourself a couple of times on what this live is, because I think that most people didn't get the beginning intro that you just gave. So
I have a bigger intro. Yeah.
To jump on.
Yeah, I have another intro.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we'll just give a moment. Yeah, we'll just take a moment and see. I don't see anybody.
It's slowly jumping up. 3, now 7, now 8 people coming on.
Nobody's saying hi. There's Yasmin.
Julie Webb, good morning. Murray Manning, hi to all. Kate Howard, hello from New England.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah, my internet is so slow out here that, anyway, it's very slow. Hi, Julie. Yeah, you guys still have a lot of snow, don't you? Good morning, Ayat. Good morning, Charlie. Charlie, I read your love letter last night, and as you know, I commented on it. It was amazing. And I was hoping you wouldn't mind if I read it this morning. So anyway, let's see.
Yeah, people are jumping on slowly. 12 people and counting, going up.
Okay, all right. So, good morning, Chris. I want to really get started because we're a few minutes late. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being here and for being part of this whole tribe, because it's so important to have a tribe, especially when the world is so unknown right now. I sit at night and think, I haven't flown in so long. I'm just going to book a flight to somewhere, and then I can't, So there's so many ways in which we've grieved this last year. And so it's really important to take the time to do that. And I'm waiting because what I was going to talk about didn't show up print. I was going to have it emailed to myself, but it's not showing up because it takes 10 minutes for anything to email here to or from me. So anyway, my name is Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator author. I'm the founder of Communication with All Life University, and it's a school for people to learn animal communication, to become an animal communicator, to learn energy healing, to become an energy healer, and we're eventually opening up a whole nature and wildlife part of the school. So it's a very exciting time for the school. We're really expanding. There are a lot of new people coming in. A lot of people are stepping up into teacher training. And so there's a lot going on right now where we're really working with the teachers so that this school is a world-class school for everyone, no matter what you want to learn. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey as an animal communicator to then become a school. And I think it's really important to see what a journey that's been. And maybe in a couple weeks, that's something we'll do, is we'll talk about the progression of what happened, and that sounds like a really fun topic because I've got some great stories. But anyway, I would love for everybody to keep saying hi, and and I also want to talk a little bit about my mission. I've always on my board, I've had several versions of it, but it really is, my mission is to empower others to deeply connect with all life so that together we can give voice to those who can't speak for themselves and ultimately raise the frequency of the planet. So, when everybody is heard, there's healing. And whether it's animals, whether it's a tree, whether it's a human. And so I put a number on that mission and said it's, all right, 10 million. But the truth is, it's going to take all of us. And this group is really expanding. And so it means that this army is getting bigger. And so I'm so happy. And even if you never, ever, 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 ever need to take a class because there are animal communicators in here, at least you're improving your own household, your own ability, your own desire for basically peace on the planet through our animals. I really believe that animal communication is going to bring us to world peace. But I wanted to also, we have a lot to talk about today, and one of those topics is, of course, loss. And as you've gone through, today is day 2, and today is bucket list. But I want to talk a little bit about what went on in yesterday's here in a minute. But I want to hear, who else is here, Yasmin?
Wow. Whoa. I was looking at the comments. 27 people are now on, which is
cool.
amazing. We just got so many people saying where they're from. I just asked everybody where they're from. Snow, no snow. Pennsylvania, Venice, Florida, Debbie Holbrook, Mercedes Smith, Laura Seeley. Such a beautiful mission, Joan. So
Thank
happy
you.
and honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, and Laura's in AC level 1, and of course we hope that she'll go through the whole program. She was magical the other night, so.
Oh, wow. Nina Orsley, hi from Calabasas. Oh, Lena Chero's on.
Hello.
Tanya Hoffe from New York.
Tanya.
Snowing.
Wow.
Lee Davids from Ohio. Peg Davis, actually, from Ohio. Wow, so many people. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi, Debbie Holbrook. Mercedes Smith.
Stevie,
Wow.
It's so funny, Stevie's on. Stevie did what Shannon and I do a lot, which is the other day, Stevie, it was in the evening in the UK and the morning here, and we were both cleaning our paddock on the phone together. There's nothing like picking up horse with a friend, right? And Shannon and I always do it, but so there's someone new to the Horseshit Club, so that was awesome.
It is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
We've got somebody from the Netherlands, Miriam Westerkamp.
Oh, cool.
Hello from the Netherlands, Miriam.
Very
You
cool.
found it. I can practice my Afrikaans.
Aha. Okay, I'm going to get up for 1 minute and see. Hold on. Why is this email?
And I'll continue to say hi to people. Lisa from Toronto, Canada. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. Must be pretty freezing up there. Stevie Watson. Hey, Stevie. Chris Houghton from California. Leslie Williams from Birmingham, UK. So nice.
Okay, my email.
Mayari from Devon, UK. Wow.
Wow. Bitter and cold. Yeah, you're in Toronto.
Yes. Shobi from
Berkeley,
California.
All right. Well, this is great. And I would love to hear everybody's comments about as we progress. So yesterday, the class was all about how in many ways, death is not the end of the relationship. And it's really hard because I had a moment a few weeks ago where one of my dogs just overdid it, and she ended up in the hospital. And just having her not be here for one night was pretty much, it put us all in a little bit of shock. And it was a reminder of something that I talk about a lot in my TED Talk called The Rainbow Bridge, Animals in Transition. And I talk a lot in there about how, my family had died. I didn't think I finally was at a point where, I wasn't grieving that minute. And all of a sudden I realized I'm going to lose all these animals. Because at that point I had 10 animals, and now I'm back up to 10. And I got jerked back into the reminder of what I termed in the talk, Preciousville, that every moment is precious. And when we can get to that point where we're really being in the moment with all of our animals, or if we only have one animal, that's great. And it's a very, very, very magical thing. And I actually want to go back to something I was saying a few minutes ago. A few minutes ago I said, even if you never want to learn animal communication to go out and help others, but you just want it for yourself, this is still such an important thing. We had a gal the other day in the Energy Healing for Animals class that said, I'm not taking this to become an animal communicator or an energy healer. I just wanted to learn this for myself. And for me, that's such an important thing, because I always say that if just one household reaches harmony, and she had some challenges that she overcame through the course of the Energy Healing for Animals class, if just one person and their animals are able to create harmony, that's rippling out in the world. So everyone is welcome here, and this is a group for that. And then if we could all do something that is very important, called holding space for each other, we have the space to grieve. And the reason that's so important is, first of all, to deny it is not honoring, of course, our animals, and to deny it is not honoring our own feelings. And denial is a very long river in Egypt, and it shouldn't be something that we practice daily. So when we think about the idea that our animal has passed, the thing that usually stands between us connecting with them is grief. And yet grief is such an important component in evolving that relationship to the next step. There becomes a certain point, and it's really hard to explain, that when you allow yourself that deep grief, there is such a connection finally to that being and to your love for that being that can never go away. And you suddenly find that place in your heart where they live forever. And not only that, but that place in your heart becomes not just a place of tears, but a place of sweetness and love. And that's a really hard thing to describe, but I would love to hear if anybody's experienced what I'm talking about. Please type in if you're experiencing that. And so Stevie and I were actually talking about grief the other day when we were both shoveling shit. Because it is something that we often think we can bypass or we've gotten through, and something can hit you a couple of years later. As an animal communicator, you might see a dog that looks exactly like your dog, or you might see a cat that does something exactly like your cat, or you may watch a horse that has that exact canter your horse has. So there are times as animal communicators that we really have to work through this. Because if we're going to help others, we have to move through our own grief and pain and loss and fear and all the things that come with animals, you know, in the energy healing for animals class that we're almost finished with, we go through a whole series of feelings we might have, and then help our animals, and then create ways that we work with clients, because we are going to get triggered. We're going to get triggered for sure. And so I would love to hear, Yasmin, what are people saying? Are people relating to that at all?
Yes, a lot. I mean, you know, I think everyone's just absorbing what you said because it's so deep. And Kate says, listening in with my 13-year-old daughter, in awe of your mission, which is amazing that her daughter is on.
Yeah.
Mercedes Smith says, true. Miriam Weston come from Netherlands, totally agree. Yeah, I think people are resonating so deeply with this, you know.
And I want to say that somebody had commented in one of the comments. I went through a lot last night, and I actually really, it was great to go through it. And I did not go to bed as early as I usually have been going. Shannon and I have been like she lives in Orlando, but so she's 3 hours ahead. And I talked to her last night close to 8:30. I was like, run. Like, I've been running to bed and getting so much sleep. But I did get good sleep, but not... I did stay up later than I meant to. Anyway, somebody had commented that they'd never heard grief described this way. And I'll tell you, my sister died when I was in my early mid-20s. And I lived in New York City when she was diagnosed. And I moved back to Seattle to be with my family during what I thought would be a recovery after surgery. And it turns out she, died within the expiration date that the doctors gave her. So I was very bereft. And in fact, I learned tarot cards then. And I used to go to this tarot card reader who looked like a little elf. And or a wood cutter dude. I don't know. He was something else. Very unassuming and very Seattle looking. And I remember it was at a little coffee house that was near my house, and of course I had to trudge up the hill, and it was, dark and dank and winter, and, my sister had died, and I had nothing but grief, and I really didn't understand it. And, you go to the tarot card reader, and you get these cards, like he kept giving me, when he would do a spread, and he was, eventually teaching me how to do it. I mean, I got that card every time with like the woman and the swords and the bleh, like there was not a good card in the batch. Every now and then I'd get the world, but for the most part it was like there were a lot of swords and people looking away and crying. So that was what I got. And if you've ever had a period and you've gone for tarot readings or you do it yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's Seven of Swords. I mean, just bleh. And so there's a canoe. I mean, it doesn't end well, any of them. So I was almost, beyond bereft. And I had to deal with my family and their grief or their denial of grief, and understood then that, denial wasn't going well for, say, my mother. Not my mother, but more my father. Anyway, not to get into my family dynamics, but, that also plays out in loss, is, in a household full of animals, we watched. Like, I've watched Henry grieve more at one point, and then the dog grieve more as we've lost dogs. So, there are dynamics within grief, and that's worth discussing also. But anyway, what the guy said to me about grief was that the pain of grief was actually all of the love that you shared with that person. The love that my sister Lori gave me was going back to her, and the love that I gave to Lori, as Lori, love for Lori, came back to me. And so it's almost painful to receive all that love you've given back in that way. And it makes sense when you think about then the idea that like the harder you love, the harder you grieve, or that the bigger your grief is, the more you know you've loved. And when I think about that, I'd much rather be in great pain over loss than not feel at all, or to go ho-hum. And that's not to say that we don't get a little, not hardened or savvy, or, we find bigger meaning, or, we understand that their journey is their journey and there was nothing we could do. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Or we really are lost in guilt and grief. But there's a lot we can learn from really being with ourselves in this journey. And so we feel all those feelings of that love coming back to us. We feel all that. We feel really deeply. And I think it's really important to recognize all those feelings. I know that, and I know she probably wouldn't care. I tried to get a hold of her to say, do you mind if I tell this story? But I'm not going to say names. I think a lot of you will know who it is. I have a friend that has a sanctuary. We already know who it is. Anyway, and she has some around the country. And one of her mini horses was very sick, and we had done a lot of work. I'd gone to the hospital with her and put up the hazmat suit and went in and did a lot of scalar. The whole school was working on this mini horse. And things were improving. So I meet her at one of her other locations across the country, and I'm about to teach. The next day I'm going to teach. And, or maybe it was that afternoon. Anyway, that morning I'd gotten up and taken a walk, and came back to the house, and she and I were talking, and all of a sudden the vet called from the hospital, and she disappeared upstairs. And so I didn't know what was going on, and something else had distracted me. I was probably trying to find coffee or something in the house. Something had distracted me that had taken my mind away from what the outcome would be with this mini horse. And all of a sudden, I heard this sound that was so awful and so familiar, so far away, other side of a big house. And it was her crying in the way in which I cry. And I don't know I will wail that big. And I all of a sudden was like, oh my God, to hear how I feel like I must sound from someone else was so painful, so gut-wrenching. I knew exactly that moment that the mini horse had died. And I went up and I said, you don't have to talk. You don't have to, I can even go on another walk. But I'm happy to hold space with you, as I don't think there's anything to say. And just be witness to your grief, as I know that that's another level of amplifying the recognition and the understanding of who this being was. And so we just sat. And at one point, she was so bereft, and like me, she'll just let it rip and then we deal. But I thought maybe I should call her husband. And then I realized she later told me she was glad I didn't, because he tries to fix things. And when you sit and try to fix things with people, or go into platitudes, well, they're in a better place. All those things end up just making the grief go into another stratosphere, because the person can't connect with that level of emptiness or callousness, or I don't know what else to say. I want to say, I don't want to be judgy on that, but it's hard not to when you're in that level of grief. And that level of grief also for me is such a huge honoring of that soul that, you know, there's almost no better way to memorialize a soul than to feel all those feelings. I mean, elephants do it in the wild. They go back and memorialize. They go back to where the bones were. They will hide the bones. They will hide the body and bones and things from poachers. And they'll remember where they buried it or hid it under brush and return to that regularly to be with that. We know that orca up in Seattle, she's now since had a baby, she mourned for weeks. She carried that baby on her nose, and people were really worried, and I thought, wow, good on you. You know, she sat with her grief until it was so complete, then let the body go, and now she has a baby. And she was seen, like, once she let that body go, she was seen, like, jumping around and being her usual frisky orca self. So we can look to the animals for how profoundly and deeply they grieve, and know that, you know, it is something we can't bypass. We can't spiritually bypass it. We can't physically bypass it. We have to be with it. And it doesn't mean that, you know, and sometimes when we get afraid of it and we think we can't deal with it, that's the time to go even deeper with it. I'll tell you, there's, I really believe that a lot of times when we adopt an animal, we are, as much as they're going to audition for us and act like this is the greatest thing, look at my new house, they're still grieving something that they left. And so what I normally do when I get a new animal is I actually take the time to grieve with them. And especially, maybe I'm, you know, finally getting another animal after a big loss. Or maybe my household isn't going to be the same as it was prior to this animal coming. So grief comes in many forms. We often don't take the time to grieve the loss of a friend. We've had Claudia, who worked with us, was our friend, brought her dogs, was a dog friend, a Joan friend, a friend of the school, worked for the school, is in the school, and it's a loss. It's a big loss, and so I really want for us to recognize that there are so many places in our lives that we don't grieve losses, even disappointments, that when our animals die or something triggers a grief, we go into huge grief. And our animals, because they have such a purity of spirit, offer us the opportunity to go to that depth. And it's really, really, really important and powerful to be in that space. And one of the things that I was trying to print out, and the email still hasn't come, was something I found, and I'll post it, on holding space. And holding space for ourselves, holding space for each other, holding space not for, but with each other. Because we always benefit when we are also the person that's just listening, because it's a very powerful place to be able to just listen. So that went longer than I thought, and especially without notes. So I'd love to hear thoughts. Yasmin, are you still there? Come in, Yasmin.
Calling Yasmin from space. Calling Yasmin. Wow. Well, there's so many comments. I don't even know where to start. People are deeply resonating and telling stories about their own experiences. One theme that I'm picking up that is so beautiful is how grief connects us in the deepest possible way as human beings. You know, and the more deeply we touch something within us, the more we can let it go.
Yeah. When you really, like, if you really sat with, I had some stuff come up the other day. and I had some guilt. And I wanted to just blow it off. And I thought, nope. And I sat with it for a few minutes. And it's over the dumbest thing, right? You'd think it was over something big, but it was over something so small about decorating my house. So I had this guilt, and I knew it was attached to something bigger, but I was never going to find that attachment if I just didn't sit with that guilt. And then I tapped on it and I released it and I moved on. And it's almost funny to me now. But guilt is a major part of grief. Mm-hmm. Guilt is often what holds us in grief. And so when we sit with those feelings, even if it's over something small or trivial, it wasn't even anything anybody did to me, it was something I did, so stupid, but it was triggering something bigger, and I wouldn't have gotten to it if I just didn't sit down and say, hello, guilt, what say you? And, it brought a real healing about. What else is and you know what, I have to teach today, but I'll go through tonight. I teach advanced animal communication today at 11 and at 5, and I always have a Jill and Joan meeting, which we have some really fun classes coming up. If you're not going to do animal communication or energy healing, maybe you'd like body work. And we have, of course, our beautiful, fabulous CBD dog treats and horse pellets. But anyway, it's interesting. I cannot believe this email has not even come through, because I wanted to really read this piece about holding space. But I will today, 2 different times, I'll go through all of these, and there's Stevie. Yeah, these are really great. I know.
Yeah, some beautiful comments.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Laura Seeley, we all connect.
Yes.
And, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to find this on my iPad. One thing I did last night is, after I read Charlie's love letter to Sasha, which I hope you don't mind if I read, I did a search, hashtag love letter. And so you guys have 2 bits of homework that I would love for you to do. Is 1, do a search for hashtag love letter and go through and give a little love to the people that wrote in there 2 years ago. And because I bet since they wrote that love letter, they've still had some triggering things. I went through and read all of them, and I would have been up till midnight. And I knew I wanted to be fresh for today. But I can promise you, if I don't do it tonight or tomorrow, little in increments by the weekend when I can sleep in, I will go through each and every love letter, which then brings me to task number 2, is please, if you could, in support of yourself, the love for your beloved, and the work that the other people put into this, and the gift that they gave themselves, and honoring them and honoring yourself, I would love it if you did a hashtag love letter and wrote a love letter, even if it's somebody that died several years ago but still impacts your everyday life. Maybe it's a childhood animal. And Kathy Boyer did such an amazing thing that it's actually, I want to get her to post her video in here again. It's actually going to, or I have a video of it, it's going to become a book, because she's got some themes that are going to weave together the stories, but she went crazy with the love letter, and it is beautiful. She made a book for all of her animals, and I have a wall for all of my animals. So, I think that even if you put hashtag love letter and you have a picture of your memorials or something, like, even if you don't feel like you're a good writer or you don't want to write or whatever, I think hashtag love letter. Just put your pictures up of your beloveds in here. I think it'd be very, very powerful. And so I want to read what Charlie wrote. She said, hashtag love letter to Sasha, my soul dog. Thank you for being the most loving, joyful, gentle, happy German Shepherd I could ever hope for. You taught me not to take others' reactions personally and just be myself and let my true light shine. If someone isn't receptive to my essence, that is their issue, not mine. You showed me that I always have a choice to enjoy life despite any disabilities. Focus on the joy of what I can do, not what I can't do any longer. You reminded me to speak up and let my voice be heard and to stop hesitating and just go for what I want because I deserve it. Thank you for all the love and laughter you brought to my life as well as countless others. Your smile was infectious and your loss has left a gaping hole in my heart where your spirit will always be alive. I love you to the moon and back, Sasha Pasha, best dog ever. You are missed by so many people and dogs here on this earthly plane, but I know you are so well loved by those who were happy to greet you on the other side. I am proud to have been chosen as your mommy. And then she's got just the most stunning pictures, and 120 people liked it and loved it and cared, and many comments. And I mean, I've watched pictures since I met Charlie years ago. She was I think a DJ in Vegas, and I was there doing an event, and then I did readings the next day for the benefit of the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. My friend Jen Lavacek had organized all of this, and then so that's how I met Charlie, and then she moved to San Francisco. But the pictures of Sasha through time have, I mean, all her animals, and then yeah, I've just watched, you know, I feel like I've been part of their lives just by meeting them and talking to her animals years ago. And so when you lost Sasha, it was pretty recently, I felt a huge loss also. And I love that you put that up because it's just so beautiful. And again, her photos through the years of all the things she did, even as I know that you got a brace for a leg, and every step of the way, like Sasha was such a powerful, just a light and a beauty. And I know we all have that light in our household and had that light in our household. And I really feel like that's such a powerful, powerful love letter. And again, even if you don't feel like you can write or you feel like you've got too many tears, like just go ahead and put hashtag love letter and a picture up, because that will, you know, it's time. We're taking this time to memorialize together what has been and what will, you know, what will stay in our hearts. And I do have a little class in a few weeks called Intro to Death and Dying, and we're doing it here. You may not want to go into deeper studies of it, but we do spend one day on lost animals. And why I think that's important to bring up right now is I would love it if you've ever lost an animal and animals disappeared and you didn't get closure, to use this opportunity to release that in a love letter also. And please share with us if you lost your animal, like disappeared, lost your animal. And because the hardest part with that is there is no closure. And so we can create closure here this week. Anyway, it's a very powerful thing that we're doing this week, and I really want to thank you all. I wanted to bring up the topic for the Masterclass today, and that is the bucket list. And I know that when we did this before, I had all these pictures of Olivia, the things I did for her, and I'll just review quickly what her bucket list was. First of all, I bought her a wagon, and she was, used that wagon for the garbage every Tuesday. So I used it this morning. I used her wagon. Bought her this huge fancy wagon, like it was for gardening, and it was not cheap. I thought, oh my God, we can go on the longer walks. Oh no. The minute I put her in that wagon, she gave me the finger. like gave me the finger. I've got pictures of the look on her face, like, you have got to be kidding me. So I had to resort to the shorter walk with her and the longer walk with the others, which was fine. I just thought she wanted to go further, but apparently not in a wagon. I did things like I took her to the beach, because I remember when we lived in Florida, she loved the beach so much, and so I had moved to Washington State, and I got her to the beach there. And then when we moved to California, she was only with me for a month, but I got her to Dog Beach in San Diego, which was one of my most favorite memories. I got her to snow. She loves snow, so I took her up to the mountains. And the funniest thing about that was I had had an SUV when the first 5 years of her life, and then when I moved to Seattle, I had it in Denver and Florida. I moved to Seattle, so she was older. I don't know. Anyway, my mother had died, and I took my mom's car, and the SUV had died anyway. So it was just a little Toyota Camry, and so I shoved all the dogs. I shoved hay in that car. I shoved everything in that car. So when I met my friend to go to the snow for the bucket list with Olivia, she had an SUV, and when I put Olivia in the back of that SUV, she looked at me like, yeah, you've shoved me in that stupid car for so long. I can't believe this is what I deserve. And you better believe that the next day I went and bought the car I have now, the SUV. So the car I'm driving is actually Olivia's car, my Toyota RAV. So my bucket list lives on. Like, again, I used that wagon that she hated even just today. And I live alone on a farm with hills, and so that wagon comes in handy every day. And of course I use my car. I don't drive that much, but I do use my car. It is a dog vehicle still. What else? Yeah, we did so many things at the end there that were so fun, but it really reminded me, like, why not do all those things all the time? And it was we did a lot. I'd go down to the river. I did a lot with them, but it's put me in, since her bucket list, it put me in a space where I do as much as I can when I can. Like on Thursdays, Tuesdays, I do this at 10. And then I teach at 11. But on Thursdays, I don't teach until 11. And I haven't been as great lately, but I have tried to get to a different place to go hike. And we love all of our things that we do like that. When it gets really hot, we get to the beach once a week. So I've kept that bucket list, like, that's still present for everyone. And I just, I want to say that I hope all of you are creating a bucket list, and maybe we should do a hashtag bucket list of things you'd like to do with your animals. And I might start it, because I've got some items I'd like to do, some things I'd like to do with my animals, with my horses, dogs, and cats. So I actually have to teach in a few minutes, and I need to kind of unhook and get into that mode. This has been really beautiful to be with you. And again, I forgot to mention all the things we have coming up. We have the the Intro to Death, Dying, and Beyond, and Lost Animals at the end of February. On April 9th, we start forgot that Penelope was in a chair next to me. On April 9th, we start the Spring Intensive, which is 3 days of animal communication, 3 days of EFT, and 3 days of animal communication and healing in sanctuaries. And then in April, around the 21st, or 2 weeks after, maybe it's the 28th, we start Animal Communication Level 1. Although we could squeeze you into this one right now. There's a couple people starting tomorrow. We have a couple spots that we could put people in. And then May 13th, we start Energy Healing for Animals. And of course, you could join the big program. So there are all sorts of ways to learn with me. I've got lots of digital courses, and I'll give you a little hint. There's going to be a little digital sale over Valentine's weekend, if you haven't taken a class with me yet. So there's all kinds of ways to keep working, to keep being together, to keep just being a big, beautiful tribe that's out there helping millions of animals. Yasmin, anything?
Joan, it will take about 2 hours to go through all the comments. They are just so beautiful and touching, and I'm just enthralled. And you said that you're going to go through them later.
I'm going to go through them, yeah, and I swear to God, like, I teach, and then I have meetings, and then I teach, and then I have to shut down my farm and go to bed and start over, because I teach all day tomorrow too. But I will start to go through some of it tonight, maybe even today between things. Yep. I can assure you by this weekend, I'm going to sit with a cup of tea and go through that and all the love letters. Like, please, I promise, that is going to be my Valentine's Day to you guys, is making sure that I go through each and every bit of it, because I love this community, and I love that we all go through this. And, you know, more and more it's becoming normal to understand that the loss of a cat or a dog or a horse is a family member. But you may still have people in your world that don't understand that grief. And this is a place where we get it. And we want to be with it, and we're okay with it. So, hashtag love letter. Please share. And hashtag bucket list. I'm going to start that trend.
Yes, I put it in the comments as well. So everybody is going to be doing that. Hashtag BucketList and hashtag LoveLetter.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.